Alrighty, here we are again, boys and girls. So, I would have made a video yesterday, but I wanted to get a little more details before I actually made a video about this. The PTB for the mid-chapter patch is upon us now, and in it we are featuring the Doctor's new rework, and we are also getting an unexpected change, which is, I'm sure most to all of you have already heard. A change or overhaul, or blatantly stated, a huge nerf to Hex Ruin. That's right. Even though the devs said in their dev post that recent statistics have shown that in red ranks Ruin is used in 80% of games and in 45% of games in total throughout all ranks in the game. So it's probably the most used perk in Dead by Daylight. By far the most used killer perk for sure. And they have decided to change it because, you guessed it, it was stressful for survivors. Pretty plain and simple on that one, right? Shocker. I mean, you should go read the post if you haven't read it already. Like, it's just oozing with bias towards survivors. It doesn't once mention how the killer players feel about it. It was all done in the name of survivors. And that included all the Doctor changes as well, because they talked about what made him what made him frustrating to play against, but nothing about what made him frustrating to play as. But we'll get to that as we continue. So, starting off, I'll get Ruin out of the way, since it is the hottest topic on the whole thing. Ruin is no longer going to do what it does at all. It's not getting a numbers nerf or anything. No, it's getting completely changed. What it does now is whenever a generator is not being worked on, it regresses, the generator automatically regresses at twice the normal regression rate. In layman's terms, it sounds way more exciting on paper than it really is. Because if you know the statistical numbers, when you kick a gen and the generator's regressing, for every 1 second a survivor worked on that generator, it takes 4 seconds for you to regress that 1% for them. So in this case, every 2 seconds, 1% of the gen will get regressed. So it's not exactly great, like, at all, really. And plus, it's still a hex. Probably, the only good... You also can't kick the gens whenever this is happening, so you can't regress it with that even further. You can't use Pop Goes the Weasel while Ruin is active. You can't use... Surge unless they're sitting on the generator, and even then it'll regress it by that measly 8%, and Surge is a crap perk anyway. The only perk that it synergizes with is Surveillance, because with Surveillance, the moment they let go of the gen, it starts regressing, and then Surveillance activates. And while this can be a pretty interesting combo, the problem is, as long as they're working on the generator, Ruin literally does nothing at all. So that means there is no slowdown on gens, there's nothing keeping toolboxes improve thyself down even a little bit. It's up to the killer to push them off the gens, but the killer can only be at in one place. Unless you're a killer with high mobility, or you have Doctor's new Static Blast, that's literally not going to be very helpful to you, because very few killers can pressure the gens and can pressure several survivors at once. It's just not feasible for most killers to do so. This is definitely going to result in a speeding up of games, and that's why I have taken Ruin off all of my killers, because there's not really much point, because in less than 2 weeks it is going to be gone. So like I said, why bother? It's not worth it anymore. So the devs completely blindsided this out of nowhere, and they, of course, as usual, only thought of how survivors feel when they're facing the perk. They never stopped to ask the question why killers were using this perk so much in the first place. Why did everyone feel like it was such a mandatory perk? You know, why is it the killer meta? They never asked any of these kind of questions. They only asked, why do survivors hate it? Wait. What the hell? Okay, well, I lost track of the Dwight because I wasn't paying attention. Alright, let's go this way. Da -da -da, da -da -da. So yeah, we'll have to be trying to come up with different ways to slow down gens from now on, because Ruin is no longer going to be up to the task. Because it's still a hex, it still gets found and disabled within the first 30 seconds of the game, 80% of the time. So, we still have to worry about all that. Nothing around that has changed. If it wasn't a hex, maybe it would still be a half-decent perk, but the fact that it is still a hex immediately negates the majority of its usefulness. Let's get you. And now for the Doctor rework. So as we went over in previous videos going over this topic, and the scratch marks just disappeared. Okay. Alright, cool. Glad to lose my fucking survivor yet again. I'm losing pressure like crazy because I'm getting irritated, and on top of that I got no early game pressure. There's nothing forcing them off the generators because I don't have Ruin. I honestly have been... I don't like running Ruin, as a lot of killers I'm sure don't. We run it because we feel it's necessary, and we feel it's necessary because gen balancing has been terrible. As you can... I mean, shit, 2 gens and I've got my first hook, and that's partially my fault, but at the same time, it wouldn't have made any difference. I mean, look at them. They're double stacking on gens. There's nothing stopping them. They're not hunting for any totems because there's no reason to. I've got little to no pressure to work with. And I can't zoom over there at sonic speed, so pressuring the gen is also difficult. Alright, let's try this. Oh, perfect. Oh, okay, well. On the bright side, though, the frames have been a bit smoother the last couple of days. I don't know if that's just a coincidence or whatever, but it's nice for it at least to be temporarily better. Alright, got it. Alright, let's get you on the hook here. I do like I'm all ears on Doctor. It comes in handy. Let's go get this. Pretty sure he's working on it again. No, he didn't touch it. Okay. Well, oh, they're going for the save. Or maybe not. So I guess he wanted my... Oh, you know what? Pretty sure I just got faked out. I don't know where these dudes are. You guys have got me tripped out a little bit. Oh, right here. Whew, that was close. Good thing I held on to that swing. Let's get some pressure going. Oh, he abandoned the loot. Damn it. Dude, they're just leaving their guy on the hook like that. Dead hard? Nope, no dead hard. Alright, got a little bit of pressure going. That chick's on death hook, so I can take her out if I want. Kind of feel bad for her, though. Double stacking on the gen again. Let's go knock that. I mean, okay. Now you're in trouble, Jakey Poo. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. Oh, I should have done it. So yeah, speaking of Doctor's rework, we know the old details. Is like he's got no more treatment mode. That's been completely defunct. And he's getting, instead, Static Blast to replace his old Static Field, which will zap anybody in his tear radius, has a 1 minute cooldown. It looks like on the PTB it's pretty useful. However, some new details have emerged that are a tad troublesome. And those details are things like, first off, Madness is now easier to get out of because it now has a set number of skill checks, and to boot on top of that, oh, what are you doing, girly? Oh, Dead Hard, I forgot. So he let his buddy die on the hook to get that gen done. Probably not a good idea, considering now I can hook her here, find him, and pressure him. That's gonna be gone too. I cheesed her out a little bit with that, but I don't care. The amount of times I get cheesed by an unhook, it's unreal. Alright, got them all. Kind of a rough start, but we pulled it through. So anyway, about the Doctor's rework, sorry, like I said, I trailed off and I had to focus on the game because I was falling behind. Snap out of it is now easier to get out of because when you fail a skill check, it does not reset your snap out of it action. It only regresses the meter by a measly 25%. Also, when you go through the snap out of it action, you go back all the way to tier 1 madness instead of tier 2. And whenever you stop, if you stop doing the snap out of it action in the middle of it, it doesn't make you start over either. It saves your progress. Literally, they've turned Madness into a worse status effect than Mending. It's super easy to get out of, and it's really, really just weak in general. Because now Doctor has to spend a lot more time getting people back into Tier 3, because he isn't passively building up their Madness when he's in treatment mode anymore. He has to use a 1 minute cooldown ability to give them a chunk of Madness. I don't know exactly how much. They said it was supposed to fully tier them, but it's possibly not the case, but I don't know. But let's say for the sake of it, it is. So you have a 1 minute cooldown on that, and it only affects those in your terror radius, which is nice because it keeps Doctor as the terror radius manipulator. That's his whole motif. Alright, got that blood web. And moving on from that, they, sorry. Alright, so focus time. And also moving on from that, they may have removed stances, which they said because they wanted it to feel smoother and have better flow in the gameplay. Only issue, they have also... There's two things to this. That one's a good thing and one's a not good thing. The good thing is they've increased his base shock range by 10% and narrowed it to, which I agree with 100%, because I would rather it be more skill-based than just spamming shocks. The problem is they added a 3-second delay before he can use any abilities or attack after he fires a shock attack. 3 seconds. That is absurd. Now, they did say this is under review. And thankfully it is, because on the PTB you should see it. After you zap, it takes a longer delay, and it almost as if it's lagging for it to hit the survivor. And they did that because they realized, wait, the Doctor can only stun you for 2.5 seconds. This is a 3-second stun on the Doctor. So it would literally eliminate his anti-looping, and it kind of already has, because I've heard that you can still just camp a pallet, and by the time Doctor's able to swing, you can fast drop the pallet and slap him in the face, and he won't hit you. So you just can't pallets. Now they did say, thankfully, that this stun is going under review. Personally, well, I'll go over that after I finish the rest of the details. And another problem with this ability is the fact that the amount of times where Doctor zaps somebody that's trying to go over a pallet or through a window, and they're just sitting there staring at each other because neither one of them can do anything. It's just the dumbest thing. It's like, what's the point if both characters are going to be stunned and unable to make a play off of it? It's like, that's the most counterproductive design I've ever seen. I'm hoping they take a certain approach to it, but they've also changed one of his add-ons. As we know, the Exhaustion add-on now creates counterclockwise skill checks. But now that Hex Ruin's been nerfed and doesn't require anything to do with skill checks anymore, that's not much point, because there's no reason to hit a great skill check if you don't have to anymore. Literally, Hex Ruin was the only reason the great skill check even had much of a meaning. Outside of like a brand new part, and the bonus you get to repairs and healing aren't that huge, and it's like, eh. My point is that reverse skill checks don't really matter when the skill check's so huge and you don't have to aim for greats. So, that add-on is pretty much dookie butter. I wouldn't recommend using it. The Iridescent Queen is pretty nice because it makes it, anytime whenever anyone's hit with a static blast or a shock therapy, if they go within 4 meters of another survivor, they get zapped. And survivors can even zap each other if they each have a static charge, which is pretty neat. Allows Doctor to apply more madness to the field, and it makes it to where working together can actually penalize the survivors a little bit. It's pretty cool. Not the most crazy thing in the world. Now, I made a post on this, and I've given feedback, and a lot of people have been saying the same thing about the Doctor's rework so far. The two biggest problems with the rework: the snap out of it action is way too easy, and it gives way too much benefit, because since they're not in tier 2, they can go back to tier 1 after they snap out of it now. Most of Doctor's add-ons have become weaker, and his effects were not even really that strong to begin with. As well as the fact that it takes Doctor longer to get them into tier 3 again, because they can, after that very short channel, they snap out of it, they're back in tier 1, your add-ons are no longer affecting them, and you gotta go and deal with all that again. Oh, hello, Clark. So, so a lot of people have also said that the other part is the stun, and it's counterproductive to what they're trying to do for the Doctor. It disrupts gameplay. It is a big time waste for the Doctor, wasting 3 seconds of free gen time every time he shocks. It's just not good design. It really isn't. I mean, look at that. This is why people ran Hex Ruin. I got that chase and got it done really fast, but it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they just crank out the gen. They have no contest. If you knock them off the gen, it regresses, but it's like, they're not going to stay off the gen that long because they don't need to hunt for the totem anymore. They don't care about it. Unless you're running Ruin and Surveillance together, there's no real threat from the totem staying up. Look at all these windows. At least with the faster shocking, I'll be able to stop people from running that loop. Wow, that was laggy, and it did not work as it's supposed to. Yeah. He's trying to body block for his buddy. I shouldn't be dedicating to this chase, because, yep, see, gens are flying. Oh, he's got a flashlight, doesn't he? Oh no, he's body blocking. They must be Survivor friends or something. So yeah, I proposed to the devs on their forums that they need to do a few things. First, I think personally that there should be no delay on attacks from using shock therapy, but they need to keep a delay on the shock between shock therapy attacks, because this will promote a less spammy playstyle for Doctor, and it will separate the good doctors from the bad ones, which I feel is very important if we want Doctor to be a strong killer. We need to have a skill cap to learn, and we need to have a learning curve for him, so that it's not super easy, but it's not so hard to be impossible. Alright. So of course they went for this girl first. Alright, well that's a god pallet gone at least. And yeah, so that, like I said, this will make sure that there's a skill cap to using Doctor and not just spam to win, which I agree is extremely necessary. I've also suggested that, oh, decisive. Yeah, it's fair. I shouldn't have gone for her anyway. I should have just slugged her and ran off. Oh well, she's in tier 3 madness. I can afford to leave her. That'll keep her delayed for a few moments. I need to go find someone else to pressure anyway. There's 2 of them on Death Hook now, both the Claudettes. I think. Oh. Got her. Whatever. I will say, with the Ruin gone, survivors need to expect killers are going to play a lot more lame from now on, because Ruin gave killers the luxury to attempt to play nice and try to give people a good game. Killers can no longer afford that, because they don't have that early game cushioning anymore. So if you Survivor players see a lot of killers tunneling and camping after this patch goes live, well, I'm sorry, but this is what you guys, that's the price to pay for this. I love fucking I'm all ears on Doctor. It's good for not only knowing which direction to cut off during his shocks, but it's also good for on most killers just to deal with those tiles where you can't see the survivor. It's really nice. And plus there's some mind games you can play with it to trick survivors into going to a specific direction. Alright, let's kick this down. But you know, I've been doing a bit of an experiment to an extent to try to test this, how Ruin is going to be. Because now that people might not go after the totem. They might not. But I was seeing what would happen. And basically, I was using Devour Hope to substitute. Now the difference is when Devour Hope's up, people don't even know it exists until it actually insta-downs people or they find it. And out of all the games I've played over the last couple of days, I've gotten my totem cleanse pretty much every time before. It's like, I only got Devour Hope to level 5 once. I only got Devour Hope to level 3 like twice. So totem spawns are still gonna cripple the new Ruin, even if the new Ruin, with the synergy it has with certain perks, turns out to be any sort of decent, which I'll be honest, I'm still not holding out too much faith in that. I think some people are overhyping it and acting like, oh, this is, some people have actually said, oh, new Ruin is better than old Ruin. It's like, no, it really isn't, because it doesn't do the job that people use it for. It can do something decent, but once again, if you're not running surveillance and you're not running a high mobile killer, you're not going to get much out of it. Plus, on the killers that are going to suffer the most from this are the 115 movement speed killers with slow starts, like Trapper and Myers and even Hag. Ruin was a nice cushion for those early game setup periods where you weren't able to really attack anyone because you had to set up your plays for later on. And now you don't have that cushioning anymore. And that is going to have a more drastic effect than I think people realize. I didn't realize there was only 2 left, holy crap. Alright, this gen... They must be looking for hats. Oh. Well, she gave up. But yeah, I'm glad a lot of people are getting behind Doctor and trying to get these changes improved, because the current state of which they're trying to put Doctor in is just not gonna be enough, I think. Oh good, a DC. So I might not even get my 4th barbecue stack. How nice of you. Strategic DCing, I guess. Are you... What the fuck was that? Oh, you know what? Did I just get pebbled? That didn't feel like a pebble. Alright, well he found the hatch, of course. Gotta love mechanics that hand out free wins to survivors, right? Even if they didn't earn it, and even if people broke terms of service to get it, you know, it's still a mechanic the devs allow. Mm-hmm. Yep, I did get pebbled. Oh, that sucks. Whatever. So, yeah. And I went to the devs, and sorry if I already started this, but I lost my train of thought because when I got playing, I focused on the game more, because without Ruin, you have to focus a lot more, and that's annoying. I'm going to have to get used to trying to keep commentary going while I'm playing. So I wrote a post to the devs, and I said, you know what? Doctor was my very first killer I ever played. I feel like I know a lot about him compared to most people in the community, because I don't see very many doctors that seem to know what they're doing. And I'm like, here are my suggestions. First off, they should, like I said, they should remove the stun from his attack, but keep it on his shock so that there's a bit of a skill cap to Doctor, and they've already narrowed the beam but made it longer, so it's better, but it's also harder to hit. I approve of that a lot. I think that is something that is very necessary to make Doctor a better killer and make him not too super easy or cheesy. Next up, I said, hey, they need to on Madness, they need to make a choice. Either they need to make Madness easier to get through like they have and make it still go back to tier 2, or they need to actually extend how long it takes and make it a bit more difficult to get snap out of it in exchange for going all the way back to tier 1. Because having both of those makes it to where getting to Madness 3 doesn't really mean much of anything anymore. And it is Doctor's biggest pressure tool, and considering killers are going to need pressure now more than ever with Hex Ruin gone, killers need to be more powerful. Hex Ruin was a band-aid fix to a much larger issue, but now that killers are going to need more pressure and more power if they have any chance of surviving at this rate. And that's why I feel that they should do that. And finally, if they want to make the last, I believe I mentioned this earlier as well, make the skill check on the reverse skill checks add-on slightly smaller, in order so that on a good day it might actually end up doing something. Because currently counterclockwise skill checks alone are not worth it, and since you can't stay in Madness tier 2 all the time, you're not going to get nearly as many skill checks in a random spot versus the Doctor, so it's even weaker with that in mind. As I said, they plan on on reviewing the 3-second stun. I'm really hoping they go with the idea I have, but if they at least reduce it to a point where it doesn't make Doctor feel clunky, I'll be happy either way. I would like to think that they'll take it off of the stun away from his attacks, but honestly, I don't really believe they will, just because the devs, they don't really like to go with ideas that make killers straight up better. They just like to make them less pointless, if that makes any sense. Anyhow, oh right, one last thing. Larry's Memorial Institute got a rework. Now I can't say too much about it gameplay wise, as I haven't seen the whole map very much, but I will say aesthetically it's one of the most beautiful looking maps I've seen. It is creepy, it is dark, it is dingy, it's got I mean, I can't even describe it. It's a completely different map now. It's a lot scarier, and it's a lot more fitting for someone as brutal and horrifying as the Doctor. Anyhow, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to subscribe. Comment down below if you have any questions, concerns, or just rather want to say anything, really. And I hope to see you all in the next video.